Hi guys, this is Ranjit, and in this video we'll be doing the full review of this Moto G82 smartphone. And I was supposed to post this review earlier, but I was just not well, still not well, but I think so now I've used this device quite a bit, much longer than what I intended, for over 3 weeks. So let's go over this one, and we'll go over all the points, what I liked, what are the things that I did not like on this smartphone. So we'll go over there, and I'll also have chapters because I've divided this video into various different segments so that you can quickly jump to a particular area that you want to know. So let's start with the pricing of this one. And Motorola quoted that the price of this one is about 20,000, but that was with the what do you say, credit card, something like that, SBI. The regular price is 21,500 for the base variant, that is 6 gigabytes of RAM. So I will be taking the price as 21,500 for my review consideration. Just want to make it very clear. In fact, if you want to know more about the physical aspects of this device and what comes inside the box and all other things, watch the unboxing video. Directly we'll be jumping between what I like, what I did not like in various segments. Okay, so first thing, and that is the screen on this one, and I think so that's the big highlight about this one. This one has a 6.6 inch AMOLED screen. That's a POLED screen, which is actually a good one. The good thing is that this one actually supports 120 Hz refresh rate, and it's a proper 10-bit panel, not a 8-bit panel. So actually, in terms of screen quality, I do not have a problem with this one. What they have done is they have put a very good quality screen on this one, and in fact the brightness level is also good. Generally what happens is that many vendors put a good screen on one, but in the maximum brightness they compromise. Here it's decently bright. I've kept it on manual brightness. Auto brightness of course is there, and it's a decently bright screen that we are getting on the smartphone. So that way it's actually good. So I don't have to worry about that one on this smartphone. But again, I wished, again, as I've told you guys, this is 120 Hz refresh rate, and you can switch between 60 Hz and 120 Hz. I wished they had an option of even 90 Hz on this smartphone. I'll talk about that later because I feel it does struggle sometime at 120 Hz. Okay, moving to the next thing is regarding the in-hand feel. And again guys, like most other Motorola phones, this is also not that heavy, 173 grams, which is not that heavy for a phone having a 6.6 inch screen with a 5000 milliamp hour battery. That way it's good. But again guys, back is that fiber kind of a thing. This is polycarbonate fiber. So this is not glass, and as you can see, it does attract a little bit of fingerprint. So overall, in hand feel, I would say I did not have a problem. I wish this was glass, that frosted glass, but I can understand at this price point they can't give it. If they would have done that, the price would have increased considerably. But in terms of in-hand feel, it's comfortable. It's actually not that heavy for a 5000 milliamp hour device. Next thing is regarding stereo speaker, and this is a big improvement, I would say. And I would say, even as I said in my unboxing video, this is very similar to the G71. The G71 did not have a stereo speaker. This one does have a stereo speaker, and it's adequately loud, I would say. If I go to copyright free songs, and if we go over here, I just skipped here, and I'm going to increase the volume now. This is the max one. So as you can see, if I block here, sound is coming from this, and even this one. So the stereo speakers are decent. I would say it's not the loudest that I've seen in this segment, but they're pretty decent, and I was mostly keeping the volume level at about 80% on this one. Again, if you exceed 90%, the backs vibrate slightly, but that's what we have seen in a lot of mid-range smartphones. Glad that they have put a decent stereo speakers on this one. But I like the fact that they have still retained the 3.5mm headphone jack, which is becoming a rarity these days. So that way I'm actually happy with this device. No issues. Now moving to the fingerprint scanner. They have used this side-mounted fingerprint scanner, and as you can see, it is okay. But I feel here the implementation is slightly, I would say, not done that well. I don't know if it's just my unit here. I feel this power on off button is actually resist a little bit more than what I like. In other Motorola phones, particularly for closing, I have to actually press it a lot more. That was not the case with earlier Motorola phones with the side-mounted fingerprint scanner. Opening is good because you just tap it, it does it. But for closing it, I have to consciously press it a little bit more. So as I've told you, I don't know if it's just my unit, but this is a strange thing that I found on this Moto G82 unit. Earlier Moto phones with the side-mounted fingerprint scanner, I didn't have to do that. Accuracy is good, don't get me wrong, but again, as I've told you, to close it, have to press it a little bit more. It's not just what do you say, casual tap. Okay, it does have this Moto display, and it works. No always on screen, but again, this Moto display works very well. And again, as it's a Motorola phone, the standard stuff that you get, that double chop to open the flashlight, twist to, all those features are still present on this smartphone. Again, in terms of UI, I like it. It's still retaining the close to stock Android experience, and I like the fact that this one is not having any ads that are pre-rendered bundled like some of the Moto G series smartphones. So that way, it's still that clean Android experience that you are getting. And again, they didn't play around too much with that. That's why it feels actually pretty fluid to use. Okay, moving to the next thing is regarding RAM management. Guys, I have the base variant, 6 GB of RAM. There is also one more variant with 8 GB of RAM, and even with this 6 GB RAM variant that I have, RAM management has been done decently, and that's the advantage of stock Android experience, I would say. And most of the important memory apps that should reside in memory, like MyGate, the Truecaller, etc., do stay in memory. They don't get booted out. That way, I would say they have done a good job, far better than many of the other phones that even come with 8 GB of RAM but have very poor RAM management. So RAM management is decent, and even with the 6 GB variant, it was good. One thing is that this smartphone also does have that RAM boost option. For example, let me just show you. If you go to performance, if I think system or performance somewhere, yeah, you have this RAM boost. I think so by default it is switched on. Just disable it, guys, because I feel sometimes it will actually make the phone a little bit slower because it's using the storage on that to simulate RAM, and that's never a good idea unless you have UFS 3.1 storage. So I disabled it and I'm using it without that. And then also the RAM management has been decent on this smartphone. Okay, next thing is regarding storage. As we are talking, sadly only one variant, 128 GB of storage that you get on this one, and this is UMPC 4 storage. So this is close to about UFS 2 or 2.1. I wished they used the UMPC 5, but I understand because of the cost of this one. So it's okay storage, nothing outstanding, nothing totally bad. Middle ground, I would say, in terms of storage that you are getting on this one. But again, disable the RAM boost as I've told you. Next thing is, again, as we are talking about storage, guys, fortunately it does have a micro SD card, but again, it's a hybrid solution, so you got to be careful with it. So storage can be an issue because you only get it in one variant, 128 GB. Though RAM, we have two variants, 6 and 8. I don't know why Motorola is dead against in India in releasing phones with 256 GB of storage. I just don't get it why. So that's the same case with this one, but fortunately it has that micro SD card, but it's a hybrid solution. So that is something that you have to note because it can be a deal breaker for some of the users. Okay, moving to the next one is regarding the battery life, and as I've told you guys, this is having a 5000 milliamp hour battery, and I was very, very impressed with the battery life, and this is thanks to the processor used. The Snapdragon 695 is a very power efficient processor, and I would say the battery life I was getting on this one is excellent. Anywhere in terms of screen on time, 7 to 9 hours of screen time, and in standby, I would say exceptionally good standby. In standby, it simply does not drain the battery, so easily 1.5 to maybe even 2 days you can get battery life for this one. And that was one of the biggest plus point with this smartphone, I would say, the battery life. Battery life was so good that I just didn't bother about the battery life on this one. It didn't give me that battery life anxiety like some other smartphones do that. And the bundle charges is also decently fast. So that way I would say in terms of battery life, I don't have any complaints with this smartphone. Moving to the next thing, and that is regarding the processor used on this one. This is the Snapdragon 695G. Good, it's a 5G processor supporting 13 bands of 5G, and this was the same processor used in the G71. And I would say in the G71 it makes sense because that was for about 17,000 or something like this. This smartphone is for what, 21,500 rupees. And as I've told you, this one is actually having that 120 Hz refresh rate screen. So sometimes I do notice that micro stutters on this smartphone, and I could actually disable it. As you can see right now, my smartphone might be looking very, very fast compared to the Moto G82 that you're having. And to do that, I had to actually disable animations. So because unless I was doing that, sometimes I was noticing some micro stutters on this smartphone. It's just that the GPU on this one was simply not ramping up that fast to get that 120 hertz fluid experience all the time. So I had to disable, what do you say, animations, and I would say you should do that if you're getting it. It makes the phone very, very fast. You have to actually go to the accessibilities, or you can just search here. It's under accessibility, text and display, or you can just search for animations. And here, and this is under accessibility, text and display, and remove animations. I've enabled it. That's why the phone is feeling very, very fluid. Otherwise, sometimes I was noticing that micro stutters on this phone, and that's why I said they should have given an option here in the display. If you go to the display options, you have 120 hertz display, and I was using it on 120 hertz or 60. They should have given an option of 90 hertz, because I feel the processor, the Snapdragon 695, is slightly struggling to maintain that 120 hertz all the time, unless you disable some of the animation options, in my frank opinion. And I feel for the price, because this price is 21,500, they should have actually Motorola gone with a slightly better processor, something like the MediaTek Dimensity 900 or 920. That would have made this phone far better. So I'm slightly disappointed that they are giving the Snapdragon 695G at this price point, to be frank. It was good for the Moto G71 at that price point, but certainly here there is a little bit of cost cutting in terms of the processor used. Okay, moving to the next one. Is regarding 5G. As I've told you, this also has 13 bands of 5G, so you don't have to worry. And now 5G, we know that is going to be rolling out in India by the end of this year. There might be bidding for about 9 different bands, so this has 13 bands, so that way that this should be actually good. Anyways, now moving to the earpiece and the call quality. Here, like most of the Motorola phones, the earpiece quality was very good. In fact, my main SIM, that's my Airtel SIM, is still, and if I remove this Wi-Fi, if I just switch off Wi-Fi, mobile data I'm switching off. Let me switch off the Wi-Fi. This will get the 4G plus signal, so it does have carrier aggregation. As you can see, now I'm getting 4G plus on this one, and I would say the cellular quality was good. The earpiece is nice on the smartphone. I did not have a problem with this one. Just about 5% of the time, I don't know, I did have sometimes proximity sensor issue, which was weird. I could not recreate it because some of the longer calls also did not have a problem, but that is, I noticed, just about 5% of the time. So that is what it is. But call quality was good, and again, as the speakers are decently loud, even I could take a lot of calls on the speakerphone and it was pretty audible. So that way it has done a good job. And we also have that physical 3.5mm headphone jack on this one. Wi-Fi calling was there, and Wi-Fi calling worked very, very well. If you notice, the signal in this area I don't get very much good, so I have to rely on Wi-Fi calling, and Wi-Fi calling works very well on this smartphone. No issues regarding that one. Okay, now let's talk about the camera. We have a triple camera setup. The main camera is the 50 megapixel. Thankfully, this has OIS, so it does help a little bit in slightly dull lighting conditions. Don't expect miracles, but yes, it is better than non-OIS. And then we have a 8 megapixel ultra wide. I wish Motorola again here went with a 12 or 13 megapixel ultra wide, but this is what we are getting, 8 megapixel. And then we have that obligatory 2 megapixel macro on this one. And as you can see with the sample shots, the camera is decent, I would say, and it's an improvement compared to earlier Moto G series smartphone, because they're also using a similar sensor, but because of OIS, yes, it's slightly better in indoor conditions. But again, don't expect miracles or something like that with this one. I would say the camera is decent, but compared to some of the other peers on this range, for example, smartphones from Realme or even Xiaomi, I feel they do slightly better with the rear-facing camera. That's my frank opinion. And also, because of the chipset that they have used, Snapdragon 695, no 4K video recording on this smartphone, neither with the rear-facing camera nor with the front-facing camera. Fortunately, the 16 megapixel front-facing camera did perform slightly better than I expected. I didn't expect that much. It did It's again not outstanding or the best, but it did perform slightly better than what I expected. So camera, yes, it gets the job done. It was not like I was like, okay man, the photographs that I'm getting is so junk, but again, it's not among the best. Still, I would say if you want the better camera, spend a little bit more. Realme 9 Pro Plus has a far better rear facing camera compared to this one. Motorola is certainly improving the camera performance with updates, so I think so. They can further improve the performance with OTA updates. Let's hope they do that. But again, if camera is your highest priority, maybe this is not the smartphone for you. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but again, it's not I would say the best also in terms of camera, but decent enough. Okay, moving to the next thing is some of you have asked me. Yes, it does have the compass sensor, as you can see, so they didn't skimp on the compass sensor on this one, and the GPS performance is also decent on this one. I did go on a small bike ride. I'm feeling sick sitting, and I used the GPS, and the GPS worked fine on this one. With Google Maps I had used it, so that was okay. Now moving to the Android updates and other situation. This comes out of the box with Android 12, so that's good. That's the latest version of Android that we are getting, and I am also okay with the Android security updates. They're promising next 3 years of Android security updates. That's okay, but I'm saddened to say that in terms of actual Android upgrades, Motorola as of now is promising just one upgrade. So this is Android 12. Yes, it will get Android 13, but not after that. I wished Motorola gave at least 2 next years of Android updates. In terms of security updates, it's okay 3 years, but they should have given next 2 Android upgrades, considering the smartphone cost above 20,000, because many of the other vendors, again I feel Xiaomi and even Realme, are at least giving 2 years of Android updates. Anyways, moving to some of the things that I wished were improved on this one, and then I'll talk about the summary that I wrote on this one. Again, I wish that only 128GB storage variant is sort of a bummer, and at this price point, if you look at it at 21,500, the choice of using the Snapdragon 695, they should have gone with a slightly more powerful processor. Let me actually now read the actual summary that I have written about this smartphone. The Moto G82 is a decent middle of the road smartphone. It's neither super exciting or outstanding, but gets a lot of basics right. That's what I felt, and it does not miss on some of the important features like stereo speakers, has optical image stabilization, and actually a pretty good AMOLED screen with 120Hz refresh rate. So in those areas it's done good, but the camera performance is just okay on this smartphone. You can certainly get better camera performing smartphones at this price point, but what again I like is the clean UI that you're getting. It's almost that stock Android experience that you're getting on this one. No bloatware or ads on this one, but again, that upgrade of only just one Android major upgrade is a bummer on this smartphone. And certainly Motorola should have gone with a slightly more powerful processor like the Dimensity 900 or 920. If they would have done that, that would have been amazing. So what do I feel? I feel this is okay for casual users who want clean stock Android experience, but are not super heavy users, but you want something like that stereo speaker experience and a very good phone. But if you're sort of a very heavy and demanding user, you will notice that sometimes that sluggishness in the UI at 120Hz, unless you disable that animation options that I have shown you earlier. In fact, I would say this is very similar to the Moto G71, apart from the stereo speakers. And if you really don't care about that stereo speakers and that 120Hz AMOLED screen, the Moto G71 at 17,000 is a more value-oriented product in my frank opinion. So anyways guys, that was my review of this Moto G82. What do you guys feel about the same? Again guys, if you're still not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Again guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching and take care. I'll see you soon guys. Bye bye.